This is for Hannah. There are a lot of I knew that would happen. Okay.
We'll see if it turns out relevant. Some of them are already. Do it.
What person's here? Are we being serious or are we waiting? Okay. Serious first.
Jordan. There's something I don't think I will go with you. And then there's something Congratulations.
But no one also, maybe just start using other
Emory has a daughter that's not really Good luck.
Also, is the mic live?
It's live, but it's not on.
Well, can it be on?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Can you turn it off, please? Yeah.
Oh, it's on, the light is on, it's just not.
Yes.
There we go.
Testing one, oh yeah, that's loud. Good morning, y'all.
Good
We hit it again, good morning, happy Pride. Come on now, come on, happy Pride. I know it's early, and I know Tim one morning, he kind of pulled me from the back, because I wasn't supposed to host today, but he kind of pulled me from the back to get the crowd started. So, I want to make sure y'all awake now. Y'all awake? Yeah. All right. This is day 2 of IGNYTE 2025 conference, and once again, I'm Nico Evans, he, him pronouns. I'm the founder of Meak Productions, Inc., that's M-E-A-K as in Kite Productions with an S. We're the world's first LGBTQ exclusive talent agency and production company, and this is our 2nd year supporting IGNYTE, and so I'm glad to be here. We are streaming this live for at least, I think, half a day. So you can actually, for those people who missed yesterday, you can go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Meak Productions TV. All of the sessions from yesterday was actually streamed live. So if you missed it, you can get a chance to just check it out at your earliest convenience. Without further ado, we're going to bring back last year's co-host with me at IGNYTE from last year, Sister Amori Cano. Let's give her a hand.
Thank you, Nico. How is everyone? So my name is Amora. I have the pleasure to be your host for today. I was actually brought back on by Tim, who invited me to host last year's event alongside Nico. So I'm very excited to be back, just to be able to welcome you all. And without further ado, let's get started with our very first panel. And I'm very excited to introduce our first panel with Aja from Collage.
I'm Asha Leon. I use they, them pronouns, and it's my pleasure to be the Atlanta Family Weekend Manager with Collage. Tim and I have been hard at work for months and months to make this conference happen, and we're so grateful to see all of your faces. Before we get started with the panel, I just wanted to take a moment and acknowledge a loss our community has had. You may have noticed the altar in the main room for Dr. Julianne Ford. Dr. Ford was a beloved member of our community. Dr. Ford and I actually went to undergrad together at University of Virginia, so I have known them a very long time. And it's a huge loss to us because they left us by suicide last weekend. So, they're a beloved Kennesaw State professor, they're a Georgia State Schools Coalition founder, which is one of our partners for this event, and just someone who's, one of those people whose reach just went so far you didn't even know how many organizations and people that they touched. And so on the altar, we also have writing papers. So if you knew Dr. Ford, or if you have a memory to share, we're writing letters to their partner, Lena, and to their parents, Dr. and Mrs. Ford. So if you would like to write a letter, please do. You can just place it on the altar, and we'll make sure they get it sometime in the next week. But I just wanted to remind us that like we are in dire political times. One of the lessons I take from my Native American brothers and sisters is that we've already lived through the apocalypse. We've already survived it. Our ancestors have already survived it. For the Native American people, it's the apocalypse of white settlers coming to the United States. There are some, as queer people, we have survived the initial AIDS epidemic apocalypse in the 90s. There have, literally queer sex was banned. For most of my lifetime in Virginia, the state that I grew up in, as a queer youth. So we have been living through apocalypse, we have been living through difficult times, and I just want to say that it's so important that we gather, it's so important that we are here, because the thing that is the antidote to our oppression is community. It's I know your face, I saw you at the last event, I'm going to see you at the next event. It's I'm having a hard time, but you know what? There was one person in my group I can reach out to and be truthful that I'm having a hard time. It's community that gets us through. So I really am so grateful that you all are here, especially on a very busy Pride weekend. I know you could be in the park in your underwear, hanging out, but you're here. You are ready to conference. You're looking LGBT business profesh. I love it. Love the vibes. And before we started, I just wanted you to know that we collectively, all of the staff, all of the organizers, we are grateful that for each and every one of you, that you are here, that you are with us, and that every day we are here is an accomplishment and is something to celebrate. And it is something that for me, I know, gives me the energy to keep going through this queer life. As challenging as it is, decade by decade. It doesn't get easier, but it does get more powerful. So I am super grateful to be working with this incredible team of people. I'm going to introduce our panelists, our moderator, Sincere Porter from the Feminist Center for Reproductive Liberation. It's so helpful you're wearing that t-shirt together today, so please read it. Which is an amazing organization where if you need trans-affirming care, if you need an abortion, if you need birth control, this is the place to go in Atlanta. And Sincere does incredible work, and we'll have us introduce ourselves as your panel this morning.
All right, you can keep it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I got a secret microphone right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Asha, for that warm welcome. Greeting. So, as stated, my name is Sincere Porter. Pronouns he, him, his. I am the Trans Health Coordinator at Feminist Center for Reproductive Liberation. I help coordinate and keep our TGNC, queer, everything under the umbrella connected with reproductive justice and all the things on the side of gender affirming care, HRT, and everything outside of that as well. So it is a pleasure to be here. I'm originally from Florida. I've been in Atlanta 3 years in my role, so I'm not an AT alien just yet. So I'm gonna have our panelists introduce themselves and then we're gonna get started.
Hi, I'm Joy Snyder. I'm an intern at Collage. My name is all pronouns.
I'm Ethan Rubenstein. I'm a facilitator with Collage, and I use even pronouns.
Asha Leong, Atlanta Family Weekend Manager, and they, them pronouns.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna have a discussion this morning. Just a discussion, we're going to talk about how we feeling in this moment, just get to have the discussion. So I'm gonna ask each ask this question, each of you take a couple minutes to second or whatever it is to reflect and have some conversation. So first question, can you explain your family structure and what it was like growing up in the South with that family structure?
So we'll just read the top, which is just Queer Spawn Unite, talking about LGBT families in the South. So all of us have LGBT parents. Yeah, do you want to start?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, what that looks like is my mom is queer, and so her side of the family branches off a lot. I have a lot of step siblings that live with her, it's, I think, a lot more traditional than some families in collage look like, but it's really interesting the kind of diversity that we all have with families and getting to look at that with other people. What was the other half of the question?
What was it like growing up in the South with that family structure?
For me, if like in school, if other people knew that my mom was queer, there would sometimes be trouble, but for the most part, I was supported in both my family and in my family structure. And so it was really nice to be around accepting and progressive people in the South, even if a lot of the wider area can be more troublesome.
So I've lived a little bit throughout the South. I've lived in Texas, Georgia, Alabama, and Arkansas. I have a bi father and then a queer mother. My father and mother never really came out to me and my sister. It was kind of like they would always say the words, but we never really had the language. So my dad was always bi growing up and would talk about having attraction to people of the same sex, but never used the term bi until I was older. But he was a parent that was out, I guess you could say, while we were still in the South. And then when I was older, we moved to New York, and my mother became more comfortable exploring that part of her sexuality.
So I had a later in life queer spawn emergent story. My mother and I actually came out within 6 months of each other when I was 18. So she was 6 months ahead of me. So just in time for me to lump all my internalized homophobia right onto her, which is like super convenient. But we grew up in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is a small city now, but when I was growing up it was a little more rural. And the neighbors definitely had a reaction to my dad moving out and my mom's female lover moving in. And it was not received well. And people let us know and like all kinds of, and we were living in the countryside, so we were living probably like 20, 30 minutes outside of the city. But it was definitely, like I felt like my feelings were hurt. I remember being a teenager and I wrote this like whole long letter to my neighbors that I was gonna Xerox and put in everyone's mailbox. And then my mom encouraged me that maybe I could have just written that letter for me, but I didn't need to Xerox it and put it in everyone's mailbox. But I was mad, I was really mad about it. But also when I grew up, like the context of it is like there was a Sharon Bottoms case in Virginia where a lesbian had lost custody of her children, her 2 children, after leaving a straight marriage because she was a lesbian. So that, and sodomy laws were still on the books. So that was the legal landscape in which my mother was divorcing my father, and she was very afraid. She actually asked me not to come out to my father, and I didn't for a year. I delayed coming out to him for a year because of her request.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. You know a little bit about each other, what it sounds like. It looks like the go through the challenges growing up, and then also have the support of what that looks like, the challenges, community, internally and externally. Good things. Next question. How did you get involved with collage, and why is it meaningful for you to be involved?
Well, I went to undergrad with a good friend of mine named Jordan, and we worked in the same office. And he was trying to get facilitators for collage, and he turns to me and he's like, "Do you know anyone with queer parents?" And I said, "Me, I guess." And so we talked about my family structure, and I was actually a little hesitant to join because a lot of people that I talked to, like my friend Jordan has 2 moms, and I thought because I had like a mom and a dad that I wouldn't be able to relate to other people there. But I've had such meaningful and wonderful conversations with people that I've been able to really relate to. And it's so interesting that we have like just this one connector, but we are so like in so many other ways.
I'm really fortunate because the person who invited me to collage is actually Asha. And so I had a very convenient way in. And then collage has been really special to me because it's one of my only ways to engage with other queer families, specifically with my generation and other queer families. Because, you know, I would see my mom's friends often and they're all her age, and so it was harder to relate. But to be with a lot of other youth of queer parents has been really special for me and has really helped with how I've been growing, especially in the past 2 years since I've joined.
So, let's see, I came out at 18 at the end of high school to myself, and then in the summer between high school and college, I decided I was gonna find gay people at college and see if I was like them, and that was my good plan. And so I did that. I went to college, I found gay people, I was like, oh, I'm really gay, like really, really gay. Like, I thought I was a little bit, I'm really very gay. But also at college, when I was 18, I met Kyle Ransom Walsh, who was a lifetime collager and had gone to Family Week for many years. And when Kyle found out my mother was a lesbian, Kyle was like, "You're one of us." And I'm like, "I'm one of who? Who am I part of?" Because I hadn't met anyone else who had LGBT parents. I was 18, that was a new configuration for my family. Like, things were very much in the midst of a lot of turmoil. And so Kyle brought me in, and the staff made a point of meeting me virtually, because I was in Virginia, and then I ended up serving on the board in 2009 and 2010, and that's the first time I went to Family Week, which is our biggest event of the year in Provincetown every summer. And I was a facilitator for the young people, yeah.
Awesome. Some background, love of community, love of self. Yeah, I can dig it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the South. We know we got different versions of the South, you know. We're not gonna get into that. So we're talking about living in the South. So how is it living in rural South compared to living in urban in the South?
So Charlottesville was definitely more rural South. It was one of those weird cities where it had a conservative university but a liberal town. And usually those things are flipped. And my father taught at the university, and I went to the university for undergrad, and I did not fit in. I was in my queer punk rock phase, and I wore leather jackets and all black and had very colorful hair on a college campus that really valued J. Crew and looking a certain way, which I did not look or act. Yeah. So, you know, I think it was a struggle because I was in a period of getting a first-rate education at a place that didn't really want me there. And so just that, but also at a place that had legends. I mean, Dr. Julian Bond was teaching at that time. I got to take his class on history of the civil rights movement, you know, what a blessing. You know, at a place where like there were radical people and roots, but like overall the vibe was definitely like conservative. And, you know, traveling throughout the South in that time, like, you know, if you know, like if you're traveling through the South and you hit a gas station that's like a community center full of white people at tables who like stare at you when you come in to use the bathroom and stare at you while you're in the store, it's less common today, but when I grew up, we had a lot of the stares, you know, that was just kind of the reality of living in the South and traveling while queer.
I think I had almost the opposite experience living in the urban South, because there's the urban South, and then there's Atlanta, and I'm from Atlanta. And so, as much as there is this conservative surrounding, I've always been in a space that was very progressive and accepting, and where there were a lot of people like me, or at least a lot of people like my family. And so, I think that access to community is a really special thing, and sort of what makes or break kind of growing up in general.
I grew up in the suburbs. I was always in the suburbs baby. But I always find questions like this to be more difficult, and that's what I talked to Jordan, who brought me on to college, when he originally brought me on, is questions about growing up queer and with a queer family. I feel like growing up, it was always the thing that we had to think about is that my mom is Black and that me and my sister are mixed. And I feel like when we lived somewhere, we always had to deal with that, like first and foremost, that was the thing that people could see when they looked at us, and that was the thing that people came at us with. So I think that when I was growing up, like the queer thing didn't pass my mind as much, and that's one of the reasons that my parents were unlabeled for so long, is I feel like we were already Black and then it was adding another thing on top, so that's why I always find this question so difficult. But that's my answer.
I like that concept, and you're absolutely right, when you deal with other intricacies in life, and you're thinking like, why would I go? Yeah, definitely agree to that. Okay, so of course, we understand that in a society that we live in, it's always a legal battle to be yourself in any type of capacity. So speaking of that, what are some of the legal challenges that you're facing living inside?
We had a big legal challenge with my mom divorcing my dad. It took 7 years. It was a whole process, and it was not friendly between them. And my parents had trouble acting right with each other enough to get divorced. But they eventually did get divorced, and my mom's fears about my queerness being used against her in the divorce turned out to be unfounded. My dad is very liberal and not a homophobe, but she was just really afraid of the legal landscape in which we were in at the time. So that was a real process for my family, because they were separated for so many years before the divorce came through. And then because like my parents growing up were straight parents, like we were kind of set, except for, and I give my parents the deep side for this, we were immigrants, right? So we immigrated from New Zealand, and my dad was a university professor, so we were able to get green cards and then naturalize. But my citizenship didn't come through until a month before I turned 18. And I look back on that and I'm like, my parents were being so lazy with paperwork, and thank God that it did, because if it hadn't, I would have been the only one in my family without U.S. citizenship.
I had a little bit of a similar story with my parents' divorce causing some legal trouble. Thankfully, after a little while, it became more amicable and then went more smoothly. I think a lot of the legal troubles that sort of faced us growing up were less about queerness and more about wealth. Like when my mom had her first kid after the divorce, they didn't have enough money to name her. And so legally her name was Baby Boy with the wrong last name for almost a year, because there are a lot of legal challenges that come with being poor. And so the way that is especially pressed on the queer people was really impactful while I was growing up.
My parents stay as far away from the law as possible. My parents have been together since my mom was 15. They are not legally married. My mom will not go to the courthouse. So,
I'm with all that, as you see my walk right. I'm with all of that. Okay, far away. I'm with you. Do not laugh in the face of nature. No, not when it comes to that. I got you. So last question in this wonderful conversation that we've been having, to know collage, what pushes the fire and burns the fire in you. Did you have any support from school or university? Your university growing up in the South, so what did that look like?
For me, I had a lot of access to support growing up in school and in college. Like there was a GSA, and there was a lot of LGBT space in college. And so it was really nice for me to have that level of access.
I think for me, my LGBT student union was a lifeline. But at that point in the 90s, it was the only club in my university that was funded to have a private space to meet on campus because people were afraid of being outed. So they didn't want to meet on campus. And so like, we were the one exception that we got money to pay for. I think we met at the UU church that was walkable from campus, but it was not on campus, to just give people that like extra breathing room to be able to be brave and come to a meeting. Because it was brave in the 90s, you know, like Matthew Shepard had just been killed, Ellen is just coming out on TV and didn't even say the word lesbian, you know,
I
like.
was pumped up, I was 15 in the 90s, so I was like, ugh, let's do this. Yeah, I'll get you.
It was a different time. But I definitely got politicized, and I think I learned early because basically my first year of college, me, my girlfriend, and another lesbian couple had a lesbian lunch every Wednesday in the cafeteria. We had lunch together. And one day they came to that lunch and they were like, we have this idea for an activism thing where we do a national day of silence, where everyone takes a vow of silence for one day to basically show how LGBT people are silenced every day. And so literally, I was there at the ground floor of what became an international movement, the Day of Silence movement. And so I saw firsthand the power of change that young people can make when they put their minds to it. Like, out of those 4 people at UVA at a lesbian lunch, you know, Maria and Jesse went on to found something that like took on a life of its own, became House Deck Listen for many years. At its heyday, I think there were near 100,000 people all over the world participating. And it's still an annual event today. And so I think that just let me know that like, it doesn't matter how old you are or where you are, if you have a good idea, you can change the world.
I could yap about this, but my family moved when I was in high school to New York from the South so that we would have a better education, so that we would be safer. And it actually ended up being worse. And we moved to upstate New York in Rochester, and we ended up just having to pull me out of school. I didn't finish my senior year, and I just got my GED. And so I always find that really important to talk about, because after I moved back down here from New York, people are always like, it must be so much worse down there. But I know like a much more diverse group of people down here. It's always what I want to convey, because I feel like this stuff gets lumped together, and I've had just as bad experiences up north.
Quick, it's not much real. It's diverse for a reason. All right.
I think we have like 1 or 2 minutes if you want to take one question.
Yeah, I was gonna say, thank you definitely for this conversation and getting to know, like I said, what burns and drives the fire, with each of you inside the collage. So, as a community partner, thank you for the important work that you do. Thank you for seeing our youth and standing up for them. And like they said, we started on, good old our time. So we got a couple questions. We got 4 minutes. All right, so we're gonna try to get to some questions that we have. We got 4 minutes, Lady Fresh. Right here.
Good morning, how y'all doing today?
Good morning, how are you?
My name is Mr. Gray. I am with the Career Basic Fellowship. And I just wanted to say thank y'all so much for this panel and for sharing y'all's experiences. As someone who would hopefully like to start a family one day, I just wanted to ask like, if you had any advice that future parents should consider before they start having a family.
I would just say be brave and, you know, like everything, community organize it, start with people you know. I used a known donor to create my son as a personal here by choice 10 years ago. And that known donor was a friend of mine and has 8 years later turned into a co-parent, which is not what we expected. We expected him to be a donor and an uncle. And life has jokes and changes and you go with it, right? And so I would just say there's a lot of fear about career baby making and getting the legal stuff right. And, you know, do you go with a surrogate or a frozen sperm or someone you know? And I would just really encourage you to, like, you're building your family. And so if it feels safer to you to go with, you know, a sperm bank, do that. If it feels safer to you to ask a friend, do that. With surrogacy, there's certainly a lot of international surrogacy these days, but also, you know, we all have friends who have vaginas, you know. So I would just encourage you to start with people you know, because I think a lot of times our families are really afraid, and that makes us go the more clinical route. But there are legal implications, especially in this day and age. So that's just something we're always considering for our families.
I would say, not to let anyone define what family looks like for you. Society, whether that's your, you know, blood family, your, you know, your gang family, that's between you and your partner. So what family looks like should not be, you know, thinking about what someone who's on the outside looking in at that family. So just, yeah, you know, follow your heart, follow your spirit. I work inside that realm, so if I can help, I'm in Atlanta, let me know.
Also, I just do want to mention that Georgia has a really beautiful adoption site for all the children who are currently ready now to be adopted. And if you look at the site and read it, you will see that these are gay children. You can read the subtext about this child who loves Britney Spears and loves Pink. You know, they write it very obviously. And so I want to just point out that our LGBT families are already in the system, our LGBT kids are already in the system, and they are looking for supportive families here in Georgia. And if you go on the website, it's very clear who is gay and who is trans on there. Yeah, in the subtext. Are you one last question?
I think we got one. That's it?
That's it.
That's it, all right.
How was that? Did y'all enjoy that?
Yeah.
So we're gonna take a quick little break, and I'm going to invite up the man of the hour, Tim M. West.
Let's give it up for Collage one more time. Awesome. So I have the unique privilege, and if we can get the next slide to, there we go. So this, for some of you, how many people were here yesterday to see some of the National Youth Advocacy Corps presentations? Weren't they amazing? So we got some even more, absolutely. Hey, James, that's you. Let's give it up for James. He's one of our cohort from last year, 2024-25. He actually came to support the new cohort this year. So for people that are new, make sure you ask James questions about his experience. So we're gonna get right on to our presentations for today. Our first of which is going to be Daniel, so make your way to the front, Daniel and Haviland, who are going to tell us about their Root to Lead project. Haviland and Daniel, give it up for them.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Haviland.
And I'm Daniel.
So today we're presenting our ideas about a cookbook that we're really interested in making, which involves around nutrition and access to, increased nutrition and foods within the Atlanta area.
So my biggest interest comes from my childhood and how I grew up cooking with my father. It's something that I've always loved, and it's something I want to share with the world.
So for me, I've always been interested in cardiology, but regarding that, I've also had many opportunities to travel around the world and to sort of see face to face how nutrition is not always accessible to everyone within the world. I have a lot of family in France and on my mom's side in Congo, and I've been able to, take these opportunities to go to France and see face to face how nutrition plays a huge key factor within people's lives. And for me, I'm a person who loves food. I love to be healthy, but sometimes people don't always have that opportunity to be knowledgeable and be educated about what sort of foods are being put in front of them and what is good for them, because access to the knowledge about that is not always there for everyone.
So our mission is to develop a variety of strategies to not only encourage healthier eating habits, but to enrich new lifestyles to help Black farmers with the same wants as well. Our goal is to create a cookbook that empowers communities to access more knowledge about healthier and eating habits. So a lot of communities struggle with getting access to healthy foods. So we want to help by making a cookbook that helps with recipes for that are healthy but also are manageable.
Yeah, as well. We also plan to support Black farmers because in addition to this issue, a lot of people who do actually are targeted by access to nutrition is people of color. So in support of that, we really want to, find Black farmers and people of color who do actually know about nutrition and who do know more about these issues and are teaching others, especially people of color and who maybe do face these issues. So that's really important for us to find people of color who are really knowledgeable about this topic.
So by utilizing the resources and opinions from local farms with nutritious food and resources, we plan to design a cookbook which features a variety of selected recipes that encourage healthier eating habits. We plan on collaborating with local farms in Atlanta, such as the Concrete Jungle and Atlanta Harvest.
Yeah, so those are just the specific farms and organizations that we plan to be working with, and there are specific reasons for that that will be talked about in the next slide. So before we get into the reasons why we chose these organizations, we just want to point out some quick statistics about sort of who exactly has access to nutrition and who doesn't. So if we're looking at this slide real quick, we just want to do a more general statistic about the whole entire country. So it says over 47 million Americans are food insecure, and this does not apply specifically to people of color just yet. But if we dive deeper into that, then it says 14 million are children. So if we just take that in real quick and just sort of imagine how many people, number-wise, who do not have access to these foods and who are food insecure. And this can also be seen through the food deserts and just, again, not being educated about what's being put in front of them. And additionally, 13.5 million live in areas with limited or no access to supermarkets. So again, this has to do with food deserts and just people who don't even have access. This would also have to do with they don't have vehicles, they don't have transportation that will lead them to proper supermarkets or access to healthy nutrition.
So in Atlanta, about 820,000 people, or 13% of the population, deal with food insecurity. The rate for children is even higher, with it being around 16.5%. Food insecurity affects communities of color harsher than others, with about 22% Black and 19% of Latino residents being food insecure.
So now these statistics are more specific to Atlanta itself, and if you look at these statistics, people of color is as high as it might not seem. It is really high because this is an issue that no one should have to face. And why we focus specifically on people of color is because, if you just take a look at these statistics real here, they are just surprising too high, and it's not surprising, which is really unfortunate. So why exactly did we choose to work with these specific organizations? So we feel as if the organizations that we choose, Atlanta Harvest, sort of follow our mission, which is, to educate those who do not know what's being put in front of them, what exactly is the correct nutrition that people should access. And not only that, these organizations sort of let people have more access to these foods and nutrition, in addition to educating them, which is really important. And these organizations also promote equity, which has a lot to do with it. So not only do these organizations sort of have volunteering opportunities, but educating and making people more knowledgeable about this topic is very important, and having a hands-on experience. So that is those reasons why we decided to choose them.
Yeah, they reflect the same ideas as what we're trying to show. So by working with them, we feel that we can give like the best experience.
This slide sort of just talking about why should we do this. And now, while this is an issue that, if you might not see on a daily basis, or you might not see face-to-face, sort of me, I've had these opportunities where I've been able to see them. And even throughout my friends, my family, there's conditions where all it takes is to have the proper nutrition to avoid them. So with those experiences that I've had and people that I know, it makes me even more motivated to make more changes in the world. And while having a cookbook or even volunteering, some may think that this is not a large change. I personally believe that this is one step to creating a larger change. So for me, this is very important. And we feel that even just by promoting, these ideas and facts about nutrition could really lead to something bigger. And especially with Atlanta, as you guys see the statistics prior to this, educating those and, promoting equity is just one step away to, having people have more access to nutrition, which is very important.
Yeah, so by spreading the knowledge of how to cook using the limited ingredients in Atlanta and other struggling areas, we hope that we can make a lasting change.
And also, these organizations don't only work within Atlanta. So I'm from South Jersey, so these organizations do almost around the whole entire country. And we plan to work with more, so it's really nice that these aren't only specific just to Atlanta itself, so we can hopefully educate people around the multiple states and hopefully bring down these statistics. So we're just going to talk about what types of food we would include in our cookbook, and we are not exactly sure yet. That's why we want your advice. We'll get that in a second. And as I'm not an Atlanta resident, I really want to include foods that are still relevant to Atlanta's culture, but we want to make them being able to be nutritious and accessible, because a lot of foods that are nutritional are actually not accessible to many people because of the price, location, and transportation. So we really want to, again, we work with specific organizations that do make that change and do make these foods available, which is very prevalent to our resolving our issue.
Yeah, by focusing on health combined with Atlanta's culture, we hope that the dishes can be more nutritious using the limited access to healthy food.
So we just want you guys to possibly scan this QR code. And again, we are not Atlanta residents, so this QR code is just basically asking what are your guys' favorite foods from Atlanta? What are your guys' favorite food? You don't have to be an Atlanta resident. Just so we get some ideas to include within our cookbook. As we said, we really want to keep Atlanta's culture within these foods. We really want them to be relevant to the culture, but still having the aspect of being nutritional and healthy for everybody.
And these are the sources.
guys have any questions?
Nope.
Thank you. I was gonna say no question, but I just wanted to say this to the point earlier about how it may seem kind of small. Change starts with one step. And so I really love that this idea of having this cookbook and somebody who needs to learn how to cook more. I definitely look forward to reading some of these recipes and hearing what suggestions y'all have. So thank y'all for having this idea and helping start somewhere.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much for that incredible presentation. Let's give them a round of applause. So up next, we will have our next presentation called The People's Canvas, being presented by Henry.
Thank you. So my presentation is called The People's Canvas, talking about mapping murals as a learning tool. And my partner, Colin, unfortunately could not make it today, but we have videos on the slides that he's talking about. So for the About Us, Colin has a video. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Tom. I'm a sophomore at Chalmers High School in Illinois. I've always been very interested in the arts, both learning about and discovering famous and unknown artists. I love improving my own techniques through art classes, instructional studies, and YouTube videos. I'm a focused, detail-oriented, and hardworking student, and I try to balance my academics with my athletic and extracurricular commitments. Competitively training for flag both soccer and golf taught me the importance of personal perseverance, teamwork, and discipline. Writing for my school newspaper, The Tarmac, as well as for my class website, uniclasses.org, has sharpened my writing expression and helped me to become a more effective and creative communicator. I volunteer as a peer tutor and for my campus ministry. While I have many interests, my passion for art has been a guiding force through my entire life, and I'm motivated with this love to teach others.
Okay, my name is Henry Sismore. I'm a sophomore at Little Red Joseph Fairwind High School. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I'm the co-founder of the Friendly Fridge Network, an organization that fights food insecurity through community engagement and mutual aid. At school, I contribute to the literary magazine and participate in the Jewish Affinity Club. I love to draw, paint, and write.
Hello, my name is
So for our project explanation, Colin will be reading some of the bullet points.
So it looks like you
I can read it. Yeah. Alright, for our goal, we want to help students with limited exposure to the arts understand how art fosters awareness, empathy, and social understanding in modern society. We will explore how artists use their work to address issues such as social justice, racism, economic inequality, environmental problems, dangers of consumerism, and many other pressing social issues. Educational mission. Teach students the difference between observing art, colors, composition, medium, and analyzing its deeper meaning. Provide tools to interpret the message and motivations behind the work. Develop a step-by-step approach to art. Appreciation through a social justice lens. Methodology. Analyze art through the historical, emotional, spiritual, and physical background of each artist and guide students in understanding context and intent behind artistic expression. Encourage thoughtful dialogue and critical reflection. And for our outcome, we have produce an informative how-to guide for young people to engage with and analyze art in meaningful ways to inspire a lifelong appreciation for the power and relevance of art. For community engagement, we want to partner with art-focused nonprofits such as Groundswell and ArtBridge, which are our potential partners, which we have on the next slide. And our core beliefs are art is a universal language that can bridge divides, foster peace, and enrich lives. For our first potential partner, we have Groundswell. Groundswell was founded in 1996 by New York City artists, educators, and activists who believe that collaborative art blends personal expression with community power. Over 25 years, they've created 800 murals across all 5 boroughs through partnership with youth, artists, and local organizers, showing how art can build community and inspire change. These murals are the result of programs that center youth development, social justice, and community engagement. For our second partner, ArtBridge, this is the one that Colin picked. I think it's the biggest number. Alright, so it's okay. But ArtBridge will be a strong and impactful partner for our project because their mission closely aligns with our goals of using art to foster social awareness, empathy, and deeper understanding among young people. For our first reason, ArtBridge is dedicated to transforming public spaces, platforms for underrepresented and emerging artists, often highlighting themes like social justice, inequality, and community identity. Just like we aim to explore through the art we study. Our second reason is the focus on accessibility and community engagement, especially through entities like City Canvas and their work with NYCHA reflects on our commitment to reaching students who may have limited exposure to the arts. And our third reason is ArtBridge emphasizes the importance of understanding the stories and backgrounds of the artists they feature, which supports our plan to help students move beyond surface level observation and engage with a deeper meaning behind each piece. Overall, their mission and work make them a natural fit as a potential partner to help us amplify the impact of our project. Advocacy history. For over a century, artists have used murals and street art to spotlight social struggles and give voices to marginalized communities. From the Mexican muralist movement of the early 20th centuries, where artists like Diego Rivera painted large-scale works addressing labor, inequality, and national identity, to the rise of graffiti and street art in the 1970s and 1980s, public walls became canvases for resistance and expression. In many cities, these artworks not only challenge political and social issues, but also transform neglected spaces into sites of community, identity, and dialogue. Today, murals and street art continue to serve as powerful tools for activism, education, and collective empowerment. Intersectionality. Multiple forms of oppression, racism, classism, sexism, etc. Intersect and shape lived experiences. This representation is critical in understanding different artists, diverse backgrounds, and the unique, meaningful behind the work. Why it matters in our project, we want to consider who the artist is, the race, gender, culture, class, analyze how personal and societal histories shape their message. We want to see art as a tool for understanding multiple perspectives. Examples, indigenous art may address spirituality, land rights, and the impact of colonization. Our goal is to encourage students to go beyond aesthetics and recognize how intersecting systems of power influence both artists and their audience We want to build empathy, critical thinking, and deeper appreciation of the arts. This is some of our research that we did for this project. We did art builds critical thinking, art promotes empathy and perspective taking, arts, alternative literacy pathways, social emotional growth through the arts, lines with federal education policy goals. Oh, sorry. Is it working?
Another important thing that we looked at for our research was alternate literacy pathways. This included visual art used as a tool to assess reading comprehension and synthesis in adolescents. Another is social emotional growth through the arts. This is an art program that fosters resilience, self-awareness, empathy, and cultural competence. One last thing that we looked at was aligned with federal education policy goals. Art engagement, especially for underserved students, aligns with ESSA standards. This was the main focus of this article, and all of these help to further our point and go behind our message of helping kids understand the real meaning behind art instead of just looking at the surface level.
Okay, for public policy, support social emotional learning, SEL, builds empathy, awareness, and communication, aligns with national arts funding goals, reinforce national endowment for the arts, and then we also have encouragement, civic engagement, use art to spark dialogue on justice, identity, and social issues, advocates for art integration, positions art as an essential in core curriculum, not just enrichment. And then we have this one. Sorry.
Now, for the spotlight on mural art in New York City. An important mural is the Flacco Owl in Freeman Alley, painted by Calicio Arabella. Freeman's Alley is off Rivington Street between Christie and the Bowery on the Lower East Side of New York City. As an immigrant, Calicio immediately resonated with Flacco's story that of a non-native species born in captivity and escaping to freedom. It was said that he is a symbol of our human desire for freedom, the ability to live life on our own terms, untrammeled by the demands of an oppressive society. The mural was vandalized with yellow spray paint in 2024, but Arabella returned to restore it shortly afterwards. The mural has since become a permanent fixture in Freeman Alley, and since it was tagged, Arabella has continued to make new works in black.
Different mural that we wanted to spotlight was in St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. It blends sacred iconography with New York City's immigration history. The mural conveys a message of welcome, community, and human dignity. It honors the struggles and contributions of immigrants, past and present, and affirms the cathedral as a place of peace, belonging, and spiritual refuge for all. Now we want to take a look at the evolution of mural art and mural art through history.
Now for a look at the evolution of mural art throughout time. We begin in the prehistoric eras from around 30,000 BC and even earlier. These murals were on cave walls and were used to depict animals, handprints, and rituals. Basic tools like natural pigments were used for these, and their purpose was for storytelling and rituals. Ancient civilizations was the next phase of mural art. These murals were found on Egyptian tombs, temples, and Greek and Roman frescoes in both homes and public buildings. These were more narrative and symbolic, and often religious or mythological. Next is the medieval and religious art phase. In this phase, murals were found in churches and sacred spaces decorated with frescoes and mosaics. They focused on Christian narratives and were known as iconography rather than realism. The next one is Renaissance. In this phase, there's a major shift towards realism, human anatomy, perspective, light and shadow,
were more dramatic, ornamented works that overwhelmed with emotional and contrast. They were lighter, more decorative, playful. In the 19th century, the works were more academic. There was a romantic movement, emphasis on heroism, nature, exotic themes. Murals often commissioned in large public or civic buildings. In the 20th century, political and community murals were made. Murals used for social commentary. Mexican muralist Rivera Orozco used large public works to spotlight and inequality, revolution, and murals were made during the Great Depression. The late 21st century, street art, graffiti, digital, and interactive murals were made. Artists used walls to protest, to share identity, to challenge norms, and new media was entered. Murals are more accessible, participatory, political, and interactive. All right, thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you for that incredible presentation. Let's give them another round of applause. And now we'll move on to our next presentation called It's for Advocacy by Krithik and Drew. Let's give them a round of applause.
Hello everyone, this is our project, It's for Advocacy. Just a little background on the name. So the IT stands for IT, which is information technology, which is kind of what we're having for our project, having technology used for advocacy. And so that's kind of what the main thing is about it. So for our agenda today, you're going to learn about what It's for Advocacy is, about us. You're going to see a platform demo of our website that we have. And then we're going to talk about our 4 pillars, a case study that we did with another group, and then finally we're going to wrap it up with our future plans and a Q&A. So my name is Drew Bardwell. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. A fun fact about me is that I've been playing flute ever since 4th grade.
Hi everyone, I'm Krithik. I'm from Massachusetts, and a fun fact about me is that I like painting. So our other partner today is not here, so he made a video explaining what It's for Advocacy is, and also there's a demonstration on our website.
Hi everyone, my name is Tane, and I really wish I could be there in person with all of you in Atlanta, but nevertheless, I'm very excited to introduce our project, It's for Advocacy. At its core, It's for Advocacy looks at the collaboration between techies, who are IT thinkers and innovators, and fuzzies, social justice advocates and humanists, and how they can work together to spark meaningful change. Here, we're not just looking at technology as a tool, but also as a partner that can amplify voices, build awareness, and also drive real-world impact.
So next we have the platform demo of our website.
Hi all, I wanted to show you guys how this works in action in a quick demo. So once a user creates their account, they will be guided through the onboarding process where they can talk about whether they're a developer or an advocacy organization, and they can create their profile. In the job posting section, developers will be able to see different opportunities for them to create a project and work directly with advocacy organizations. In the My Project section, they'll be able to see all of their ongoing projects and get updates and create new projects with their advocacy organization groups. Each user gets their own custom profile page where they have their bio, their experiences, projects that they're working on, with their personal website and portfolios and activity logs. Additionally, users can go to other people's profiles to message them directly about collaboration. Via It's for Advocacy's in-built chat system. We can talk to them and set meetings or just discuss the project and more collaboration.
That was our website. And now we're going on to other organizations, research we've done, to find organizations that we can connect with in the future. One of them is NACO, and NACO believes that technology is a bridge towards providing the next biggest solutions towards their current social issues, and their digital nonprofit remains a great resource for other nonprofits that are interested in tech advocacy. And the biggest organization we found is TechSoup, and throughout 63 countries, they've helped over 1.2 million organizations, and they've given $15 billion in tech advocacy related services. And they also provide training for those who want to get involved in advocacy, and their free tool that they have online helps organizations improve their abilities, such as for streamlining operations, improving fundraising, and just making their overall impact greater. N10 is an organization with many research hubs. They have a lot of resources, and they have publications and training centers and cohort programs for, again, those who want to become involved. And their tool helps other nonprofits evaluate how big of an impact they're making and if their practices and policies are working. So STEAM, what is STEAM? So STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math, and it's focused on integrating arts in STEM. So you can recognize the creativity and innovation required for many of the other subjects, such as science, mainly technology, and also engineering. Like I said, focuses education on a more collaborative and innovative way of thinking and providing solutions for problems. And many of current software that we have are an outcome of that complements art and technology, and it's great because art pushes the boundaries of our current technology. And we think by integrating art in our project, we can make a more user-centric tool that issues many of the social issues more impactfully.
So next we're going to be talking about where technology has kind of connected with different advocacy movements. So one of the most recent and more popular example is Black Lives Matter. So for this you had a bunch of hashtags that like trended all over social media, and so many people across the world that were able to express their voices for the use of social media. Another one was something called Take Back Tech. This was something that happened sometime around the 2000s. It was a protest regarding the violence against women in information and communication technology fields. And so what happened there was many blog posts were kind of created just to spread awareness about what is going on currently in this field. And then finally we have something called the Day We Fight Back. That happened in the 2010s. And that was essentially talking about how there was too much government surveillance when it came to our technologies, such as calling people or texting people, like people too worried that the government could see that. And so there's like many protests on that. And so many people use their social media platform and memes to actually spread awareness of this and try to let the government know that like they're having too much oversight and they need to tone it down. And so now we're going to talk about our case study. So we actually worked with the People's Campus group that you saw earlier, and we just talked about how we can use technology to kind of help improve finding information about certain murals and like kind of getting the whole advocacy aspect of murals. So one thing that we thought of was we would create either a website or an app that would essentially have like all the facts, like kind of essentially stuff that you can't argue with. And you can have a chatbot where like so people can explain like the difference of a history behind the mural, the background, when it was made. And so this kind of like leads to like people kind of like knowing what the meaning behind murals is and like the whole advocacy movement behind it.
So for our future plans, well, we hope to improve our website so we can connect more nonprofits and so they can represent themselves. And we also want to connect with some of the bigger advocacy tech organizations, which I mentioned, such as TechSoup, Benton, and NetHope. And we hope this can help us build the project.
Thank you guys so much. If you have any questions, if you think of any more questions or want to reach out to any one of us, here is our emails. Yeah, thank you.
Give it up another round of applause for them. So now we're going to move into our next presentation called Anti-Semitism Then and Now by Olivia and Samuel.
Okay, so hi, my name is Olivia. I'm a senior from New York City. I spent the past year studying abroad in Spain, which led me to having an interest in the acculturation process for immigrants because I felt what it was like to live in a new place where, I mean, I was really lucky I had a lot of resources, but that led me into that interest.
My name is Samuel. I'm a junior from Cincinnati, Ohio. I recently have been working with my synagogue. Last February, I lobbied on Capitol Hill over a bunch of different bills that we were trying to support for problems such as pay equity, mental health care reform, and gun violence prevention. And recently, I've partnered with Matt to help bring this with Olivia.
Okay, so we wanted to start off with an introduction. So we are both Jewish, which this ties into this as is both a huge part of our identities.
Sure. So most anti-Semitism stems from misinformation, which has ranged back from all the way to early 1800s. For one of the most notorious examples comes from pogroms in Imperial Russia, and documents such as the Protocols on the Elders of Zion, which were a series of misinformation spread by the Okhrana, which were the secret police for Imperial Russia, to target Jews as scapegoats for the failures of the current government. And that has spread from all the way to the White Army during the 1917 Russian Revolution to reasoning for genocide from Nazi Germany. And our belief is that personal anecdotes and migration stories can help counter stereotypes surrounding Jewish diaspora and displacement of Jewish people. So, what does it mean to be Jewish? So, Judaism is one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions, and core belief is in one God, moral duty, justice, learning, community, and learning from lessons from our ancestors. And our sacred text is the Torah, including the 5 books of Moses, including Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and the Book of Numbers. And main branches include Orthodox, Conservatism, and Reform, along with a few others like Reconstructionist and Humanism. Conservative talks about a adherence to Jewish law with a little bit of interpretation. Reform, a bit more liberal, so to speak, where there's an emphasis on social action and justice, and Orthodox is a bit more strict with a more emphasis on Jewish law not being able to be interpreted as well. And ethnic and cultural group, Jewish identity also means belonging to an ancient people with shared ancestry and history. It goes back to learning and valuing lessons from our ancestors. And to mention what I said about the diaspora, Jews live worldwide, and communities in Israel, US, France, South Africa, and beyond are very prevalent and have become homes for Jews who do not actively live in Israel. And they speak many different languages such as Hebrew, which is more modern and sacred, including Yiddish and Ladino, and many others.
Okay, so I want to speak on some general facts. So the Jewish population worldwide is about 15.7 to 15.8 million people, and that is 0.2% of the global population. And something I wanted to highlight is that 7.3 million Jews live in Israel, but 8.5 million Jews live outside Israel, so that's more than half of Jews. And so I wanted to mention that Israel has a law of return, which gives Jews the right to immigrate and obtain citizenship, and that is why many Jewish migrants come from former Soviet Union, Morocco, etc., to Israel because of this law of return. And also, the United States has the second largest Jewish population in the world, with around 6.3 million Jews. And other than the United States, these are some places ranked by population where Jews are from, France being number 1, Canada, United Kingdom, Argentina, Russia, Germany, Australia, and Brazil. Okay, so I wanted to highlight some common misconceptions about Jews. So, number 1 being, all Jews are wealthy. This is incorrect. Most Jews make an income that is above average for the US, but there's still poverty amongst Jews, especially around the world. And 20% of Jewish households in the US struggle to make ends meet, and 11% fall below the federal poverty line. And additionally, Orthodox households, people of color, LGBTQ+ individuals, and Russian-speaking Jews are more likely to face financial difficulty. In France, for example, Europe's largest Jewish population, with around 450,000 people, many are middle-class professionals or business owners, and economic insecurity has risen due to anti-Semitism and immigration. And another one, Jews are not part of the LGBTQ+ community. This is false. Around 9% of Jewish adults in the US identify as gay, lesbian, or bisexual. And I did some research into this, and I wanted to find out about transgender Jews. And there was not a lot of information about this. But I did find that a lot of Jews who are transgender feel welcome in their synagogue. From this quote, you can see many transgender Jews feel very strongly about finding their place in the Jewish community and spiritual solace in Judaism. And from this, I found that there was actually a prayer written for a transgender Jew in their synagogue. And I wanted to read the translation in English because I thought it was really interesting about how someone who's transgender felt really welcome in their place of worship. So it translates to, "Blessed are you, eternal God, our God, ruler of time and space, the transforming one, to those who transform, transition, and crossover." And lastly, Jewish holidays are only about religion. This is false. A lot of Jewish holidays celebrate history, family, freedom, and culture, for example, like Hanukkah and Passover.
So our methodology process for this project consists of 4 steps from locate. We hope to farm Jews from around the world to interview, and our projects will setting up a podcast to highlight these Jews from around the world, from family members, friends, to anyone who would be willing to be interviewed. And number 2 would be to question them, create a set of baseline questions to interview them about throughout our process. And to be 3, record, set meetings with each interviewee to offer the best form of comfortability and impact. And 4, to compile the interviews to create our final product after our podcast is released.
Okay, so you want to talk about partner organizations. So, we included our individual congregation. So mine is Temple Emmanuel in New York City. I thought this was the perfect organization to include because they're a very open congregation. I've been in Temple sometimes where church groups have come in just to educate different religions on what it means to be Jewish. And my congregation is not very religious, which is, I'm not a very religious Jew, and which is something I felt was helpful with our project because all are welcome. And another one, which I'll highlight, is Sojourn, which is based in Atlanta. And we thought that was another one to highlight. As you can see, the Jewish Star has the LGBTQ plus flag on it and colors, and we thought it was another one to be inclusive to all different types of people.
So on my end, I highlight Rockdale Temple, which is my congregation. I also am not very religious, but our congregation is very welcoming. We recently had a bicentennial and have people from all over Cincinnati, those from Kentucky as well, who we've been very welcoming towards. And as the social action vice president, in my congregation's youth group, can use a lot of the resources there to help highlight people within our congregation as well. And B'chol Lashon, which is a group that helps celebrate Jewish culture and ethnic diversity. Another group that I wanted to highlight since they are able to have such a huge outreach and will be very beneficial for making this project possible.
Okay, so our final project. So our main goal is to create a podcast to share with people around the world. And we want to try to interview the most diverse group of Jews possible that we can find to highlight how, Jews have many different stories that tie into their culture and their religion. So for example, a Jew that lives inside the U.S. is different than someone outside the U.S. And how also a lot of Jews happen to be migrants. And this will give us insight into different perspectives on what it means to be Jewish. And through that, we hope that by giving information on what it means to be Jewish in different scenarios, we can combat anti-Semitism by debunking stereotypes.
So I wanted to highlight this quote, a quote by Rabbi Rob Cook. I don't speak because I have the power to speak. I speak because I don't have the power to remain silent. So for reference, Rabbi Cook was born in Riga, and I believe that is, was at the time Tsarist Russia, and previously what were the recently annexed Baltic governments, Latvia, unless I'm correct about that. But essentially, he would become the first Ashkenazi rabbi in British Mandatory Palestine, and I wanted to highlight him because he touches on a basis love for all Jews and how there's so much diversity within Judaism that should be rather to fall into and this love for all Jews than to succumb to hate.
We've included our emails if you want to reach out and get in touch. If you know someone who is Jewish, we're welcome to any suggestions. So if you know someone who is Jewish that you think would be an interesting person for us to interview, please reach out. And if you have any questions, you can reach out as well. Thank you.
Give it up for them one more time. And now we move on to our last and final presentation, Beliefs Matter, but So Do Seconds, presented by Mark, Amira, and Sapira.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today?
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. So today we'll be presenting our project, Beliefs Matter, but So Do Seconds. So let's get into it. So a little bit about us before we get started. So my name is Mark Pena. I am a senior from New Jersey. I attend North Academy High School. In my free time, I work as an EMT. and I'm really interested in ethics in medicine.
My name is Amira. I go to Almeda Crawford High School in Houston, Texas. And in my free time, I am a part of my school's dance team. We have another partner, Sepra, who is not here with us today. So if you want to read more about her, could you go to the next slide? This is her bio. Yeah.
Alrighty, so our mission. Our project, Police Matter, but So Do Seconds, explores how religious freedom laws, like the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, intersect with emergency medical care. We looked at how these laws can create conflicts between a provider's personal beliefs and a patient's rights to life-saving treatment. We focused on 3 states, Texas, New Jersey, and Virginia, to compare how different legal systems handle these tensions. Across all 3, we found that broad religious exemptions can allow providers to refuse care, which disproportionately affects marginalized communities, including people of color and LGBTQ+ patients. By analyzing legal history case studies, and existing research, we found that these exemptions often blur the lines between religious liberty and discrimination.
So this project was developed through the National Youth Advocacy Corps, also known as NYAC, which is a fellowship that equips young leaders to take on issues or justice and policy. NYAC connects youth across the country, mentorship, research, and advocacy, helping us turn passion into informed, actionable change. Rooted in the history of youth-led civil rights movement, the program emphasizes intersectionality, leadership, and public policy. Values that shaped us how we approach this project and examine the link between belief, law, and emergency medical access.
Alright, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. So, New Jersey. In New Jersey, protecting both religious liberty and civil rights has long been a priority. The state explicitly forbids discrimination based on creed in employment, housing, and public service. But tensions arise when personal beliefs intersect with life or death care. In emergencies, should consciousness claims ever delay treatment? That conflict between belief and a patient's right to survive is what we explored. So, consciousness protections let people live by their faith, but when applied broadly, they can enable discriminatory refusals. New Jersey's Law Against Discrimination, LAD, sets clear limits. Providers cannot deny care based on religion, gender, or identity. Still, exceptions exist. In one case, the New Jersey Supreme Court allowed a religious group to follow its beliefs in showing how hard it can be to balance faith and fairness. Imagine a faith-based hospital refusing an emergency abortion or gender-affirming care. Even in New Jersey, where laws are strong, these scenarios highlight the risk if belief outweighs medical duty. So I came to the conclusion that religious freedoms matter, but it should never justify medical neglect. New Jersey leads with strong protections, yet national standards are needed to make sure no patient's life depends on someone else's beliefs. Because in the end, beliefs matter, but so do seconds.
Okay, so in Texas, faith and freedom often go hand in hand. The Texas Religious Freedom Restoration Act passed in 1999, and it was designed to protect people from the government actions that burden their beliefs. But in a state where healthcare and religious frequently collide, that same law can decide who gets treated and who doesn't, when every second counts. Supporters see the Texas RFRA as a safeguard for faith-based professionals, giving hospitals and providers the right to act on conscience. For many, it represents true religious liberty, but in practice, it created serious risks. Since laws like Senate Bill 8, some hospitals hesitate to provide reproductive or gender-affirming care. Even in emergencies, pregnant patients have been denied timely treatment, and LGBTQ+ Texans, especially transgender individuals, face being turned away when they need care the most. These refusals reveal how a law is meant to protect the belief and can also deepen inequality. Religious liberty is a Texas value, but it loses meaning when it costs someone their life or dignity. Our research calls for policies that protect both conscience and care. And because beliefs matter, let's so do seconds.
Okay, this next slide was our partner Papyrus slide, but she actually made a video for us to watch, so if you could click the top link on the right.
Are you able to do it with the video or without the video?
I mean, we could just skip over it. Something? Okay, no worries. Alrighty, sorry. Alrighty, so, yeah. Alrighty, so, we'll now talk about the intersectionality. So, in our comparison, we found 3 very different approaches. New Jersey focuses on patients' rights and anti-discrimination. It has no state RFRA, meaning providers can't use religion to deny life-saving or emergency care. Texas takes the opposite stance, with one of the broadest RFRAs in the country. Providers can refuse services like abortion, contraception, or gender-affirming care, often putting consciousness before access, except in true emergencies. Virginia tries to balance both sides. It protects religious freedoms and has strong anti-discrimination laws, but in practice, urgent non-emergency care, especially for reproductive or LGBTQ patients, can still face barriers.
We propose amending the RFRA Act to prevent discrimination in employment, housing, healthcare, and public services. RFRA should protect religious freedom, not allow discrimination. This amendment ensures it can be used to deny people basic rights like jobs, housing, or medical care. Courts should also be required to consider 2 key things. First, the sincerity of a person's belief, and second, the potential harm those beliefs may cause to other civil rights. In short, courts must balance genuine faith with real-world impact. Looking at state examples, Virginia shows that strong anti-discrimination laws and religious freedom can coexist. New Jersey offers a model for balancing both values efficiently. And Texas demonstrates the risk of broad religious exemptions, especially in healthcare and education. Our ultimate goal is a consistent national standard, one that protects both religious liberty and civil rights equally, so belief never becomes a barrier to someone's basic human rights.
Alright, so thank you so much for listening to our presentation. If you guys have any questions or want to learn anything, any more information on this, we encourage you to visit our website, macnyac.com. And to build on that website, in a few weeks we'll be launching a store for any medical professional, anyone in the healthcare field, and we'll be selling little stickers and pins so that your patients or people that you're taking care of can know that they're in care in good hands. And then we have all of our emails listed as well, and then if you want to reach out to all 3 of us at the same time, you can use info@macnyac.com. So thank you so much.
Let's give it up for all of our young people. Can y'all stand if you presented this morning? All who presented yesterday already. Can we get you to stand up for the, yes, if you're in Nyack and presented yesterday or today. Let's give it up for them. We have one more presentation at the end, but we're about to break for our next session, so people can kind of see where they're going. If you're in the Buyer Wrestling Society, you're gonna go to the Buyer Wrestling Room. The National Youth Advocacy Corps, we will be going over to Spring Hill Suites for our sessions with Dr. Franz, but we would like to get a group picture by the stairwell. So when we go out, we'll gather by the stairs. NASM is gonna be meeting in the James Baldwin Suite. Youth Belong in the Nikki Giovanni space across in the East Wing. Difference in Allyship in the Josephine Baker. And then the Georgia Youth Advocacy Fellowship will be right here in this room. And then Out Georgia Business right outside of here. So yeah, thank y'all for coming, and we'll see you back in the afternoon.